The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I am the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. And I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar. Today's webinar is on the online slips and referral tracking that is now available in BNI Connect. We'll be reviewing how to enter online slips, how to view all of the slips that you have entered, and also how to follow up with the referrals that you have received electronically in BNI Connect. Today's webinar is scheduled for 30 minutes. It is 30 minutes of content, and then we do have plenty of time for questions and answers. Even though the content is only 30 minutes, I am always happy to stay on these calls until all of your questions are answered. So this is a live webinar, so do feel free to ask questions as they come up or as you think of them. The best way to do that is through the questions control panel, which you can see in the GoToWebinar software. Also, if you are at a computer that happens to have a microphone on it, everybody is muted by default, but if you'd like to speak your question or if you're dialed in via telephone, just raise your hand or drop a note into the questions or the chat panel, and I would be happy to open up your mic if that works better for you. The webinar is being recorded. Both the content and the questions will be recorded. If you'd like to follow up and view the webinar at a later time, the best thing to do, there's two ways to find that. The first of which is to go to our support site. If you're logged into BNI Connect, just click this little question mark in the upper right-hand corner, and that will take you to support.bniconnect.com. You can also just go directly to support.bniconnect.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, you will see under the training section, webinars. So you can see here, for example, that the May webinars will be posted here. We already have the couple from this week posted up here, so you can view them through this interface, or you can go directly to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, and you can find all of our webinars up on this site as well. So let's get started with today's webinar. Now, the online slips program, something that we've called the member module here in BNI Connect, was released in the United States October 29th of last year, and in certain other European countries just about a month ago on the 1st of April. And what it allows you to do is to track your chapter activity much more extensively than we were ever able to do before. So if you think about the traditional chapter meeting, what we do is we go to the meeting, we fill out a paper slip, and then we track the numbers of that slip. And that is still done today. With the online slips, though, what we can do is to, A, ease the burden of tracking the paper. So the vice president's job gets a lot easier because the POMS report is automatically updated for them. But more importantly, all of the information from the slip is now able to be tracked going forward. So for those of you that have been in BNI for a while, I happen to have been in BNI since 2002. I am a member here in the Rhode Island region. Traditionally, if I wanted to track the status of my referrals, or I just wanted to track the actual referrals that I passed, aside from the POMS report and seeing how many I passed, I was never really able to track the actual referrals. Now we can do that. When you're entering the information in online, it is captured, and only you have access to this private information. We already have a question here. Steph Allegart, I believe the name is it possible I do not have this feature in Belgium? And yes, it is very possible. There are a few regions worldwide that have not yet rolled this out. So it is very possible that Belgium, I can double check the records later. For those of you that don't have this yet, it will become available in October. So October is the cutoff line for the transition, and you should have it by that time. So hopefully that answers your question, Steph. So let's take a look at this, how this works. Now, what you're looking at right now is my login screen. Again, I am a member here in Rhode Island, and this is what I see when I log into BNI Connect. So you'll see this is the My BNI Business page. And at the top here, this is a POMS report. So this is all the information for my personal record going back for the last 12 months and the lifetime. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that all of these numbers here are taken directly from the submitted POMS reports. So these numbers will only change on a weekly basis as your vice president, or in some countries the membership coordinator. As they enter the POMs and submit them in the system, these will be updated. So no more than once a week, usually a day or two after your meeting day, you'll see these numbers up top change. The only exception to that is that there is one field here that we never tracked before in BNI, and that is the thank you for closed business received. Now this number is only obtained when you submit online thank you for closed business slips. So we all happen to start with a 0 because, again, that was never tracked before. But as you submit online thank you for closed business, the person that is being thanked will receive the credit in their POMS report, as they always have, but it will also start to tally that as thank you for closed business received for your business. As you're submitting online slips, just know that these numbers up top will not change right away. It will only be after your vice president has verified all the information and submitted that week's POMS report. Now, I'm going to take a moment here to log into our test system. As I said, I am a member in BNI, so I don't want to mess up my own stats or my own chapter's POMS reports. So I'm going to go ahead into our testing system in order to show you how we actually submit a couple of these types of slips. Oh, and I have my account in Chinese. Hold on a second. Let me switch over to English again. Interesting point, BNI Connect is translated into about 30 or so different 40, I think, different languages. So let me get back to a English language here. I apologize for the delay here. I haven't logged into the testing system in about a week or so. So English. And let's reload that and get back to our demonstration. Again, apologies for the delay on that. Okay, so going back to our home screen here, what we'll see here is the ability to enter slips. So this bottom section is where we do all of this activity. So we have the entering of the slips, we have the thank you for closed business slip, the referrals slip, the one-to-ones slip, and the CEU slip. This is where we actually input the activity on a weekly basis. You can do this anytime up until your meeting day. So even if it's the day after the meeting, so when the referral happens or when the thank you for closed business happen or when the one-to-ones happen, you can enter that slip right away. Let's start out with a thank you for closed business slip. That's the first one on the list here. So if I click on enter for thank you for closed business, it pulls up an electronic slip. Now this should look pretty familiar. It looks pretty much exactly like the slips that we use right now in the meeting. So we have an option to select somebody from our chapter. So let's say that Helen Andromelos had referred me business a while back, and that business closed, and I got paid for that business. So I'd like to thank Helen for a referral that turned into $250 for my business. It was new business. It was an outside referral. And the great thing is I can also put comments on this. Now, the comments that you put in are private to you. Nobody else can read those comments on a thank you for closed business. Not your vice president, not any other chapter members, not even Helen can read these comments. Myself, as a system administrator with godlike access to BNI Connect, I cannot read these comments that you put into your thank you for closed business slip. Again, they're private to you. But the great thing about the comments is that it will help me remember later what I thanked Helen for. So I can even put that this was in for John Doe assistance with network. At the bottom, we have a couple of options. We can either click Save and New, and what this will do is this will submit this slip, and it will immediately bring up a new slip for us to enter another thank you for closed business. So a lot of times we have our QuickBooks open or our accounting program open and we want to go through all of our thank you for closed business for the last weeks or months. This we can do quickly by clicking Save and New. If this is the only slip I'd like to do, I can click on Submit, and this will just submit this one slip and bring us back to our home screen. Or I can close this, and this will cancel the action and won't do anything. Now I'm going to click on Save and New because I'd like to enter another slip right away. So let's say, though, that you had gotten a referral from somebody from another chapter within your region, and you'd like to thank them for the closed business. Well, you can do that, too, by clicking on Search Cross Chapter. What Search Cross Chapter does is it will search the members within your region in order to pass a slip electronically to them, and they'll get credit for it in their POMS report. So let's say that there's a member in my region, Bruce. I don't really know how to spell his last name, so I'm not going to type in his last name right now. You really only have to put a couple of characters in, and I'm going to click Search. Now, here's the person I was looking for. His name is Bruce Tricomi, and he's a member in another chapter in our region, and he had referred me business. He had actually referred himself to me a while ago, and I want to thank him for that closed business. I found him in the list. I can see which chapter he's in. That is his business and his profession, and I'm going to select him. Am I sure this is the right Bruce? Yes, so I'm going to click OK. Now, he had referred himself to me, and it was for $150. It was new business. He had referred himself, so it was an inside referral, and this was to repair Bruce's laptop. And again, I can click Save and New if I have another one I want to put in, or I can just click Submit and go back to the home screen. And I do have a couple of questions here from Tim and Chuck. I'll get to those in just 1 second. Now, when you enter the online slips, the great thing about all of these slips is that it now goes into a report that you can then review going forward. So if you notice, for each of these activities, there is a corresponding My Report. So we have the My Thank You for Closed Business report. And Chuck, I think this is going to answer your question right here. I can click on the My Thank You for Closed Business report. I can choose a date range. By default, it's going to choose the last 6 months of activity. And click Go. Now what this report will do will show you all of the slips that you entered for the last 6 months. And I can see the two that I just entered today. So I entered them on 5/8. For Helen and for Bruce, it tells us all the information about them, including the notes. For John Doe, and repair Bruce's laptop. So when Chuck, you just asked, can you review your history? This is where you can review your history. Now, why I love this is that, again, the Thank You for Closed Business, the paper slip is just a single slip. You pass it into your vice president in the meeting, and then there's no record of it anymore. So what happens, 6 months from now, and a person in my chapter, Michael Katoya, comes to me and he says, hey, you remember that job that you did for me 8 months ago? Did you ever turn in the Thank You for Closed Business for me for that? Well, you can go, as long as you entered it electronically, you can go back to your Thank You for Closed Business given report and say, oh, yeah, Mike, you know what? On the 12th of December, I did put in that Thank You for Closed Business. That was for the Bob Jones referral, and it was for $2,000. Thank you so much. This is a huge benefit, I believe, for all members. So let's take a look at the next type of slip. Oh, we have another couple of questions here. Tim says, recently referred an outside chapter, and I want to input the Thank You for Closed Business. She reported me via email. She does not use online slips. Does that mean I have to do a green slip? So, Tim, if you're thanking the person in another chapter, so that person, you referred something to them, so they would have to either enter an online slip in order to record it properly, or they would have to come to your chapter and pass in a green slip for that if they don't use the online slips at all. So hopefully that answers your question, Tim. And Chuck asks, and Sherry asks the same question, is there a printable version that you can take to the meetings or give the other person? I'll get to that in just a few minutes as well. All right, so what's the next type of slip that we can do? And the next one on the list here is the referral slip. So let's enter a referral slip. Now this looks, again, just like the slips that we use in the meeting. So again, we have the opportunity to select somebody from our chapter. So let's say that I have a referral for Keith Traversy. He's the telephone guy in our chapter. The referral is for Gerald Smith. It was an outside referral. I gave Gerald Keith's card. I also told Gerald that Keith would be calling him. I give the address. The telephone number, the email address, and any comments. He needs a new phone system. Please call him right away. I can rate this referral. This one's going to be a hot referral. And again, I have the opportunity to click Save and New, or I can click Submit just to send in this one referral. So I'm going to do Save and New. Because we can also do cross-chapter referrals. So let's say that there's a person not represented in your chapter, but you've established a relationship with them in another chapter. You can refer them business as well. So there's a member in another chapter. His name is David Cordero. I don't ever remember if it's IE or EI, so I'm just going to put in the first couple of characters here. I click Search, and he does search engine optimization, which nobody in my chapter does. So I'm going to give a referral to him. Am I sure it's him? Yes. The referral is for Nancy Smith. It's an outside referral. I gave the card, the address, the telephone number, the email address, and any comments. This one has a medium chance of closing, so I'm going to rate it a 3, and then click Submit. Now, a couple of great things happen with these online referrals. The best thing about them is that they automatically and immediately receive a notification. So for these 2 referrals that I just passed, which I can check my referrals report, and you can see that they are right in my referral report. So Keith and David would have both already received an email with all of the information about that referral. Here's what one of those emails looks like. This is an actual referral that I received about a week ago. I received this referral on the 2nd of May. It was an outside referral. They were told that I would give them a call. It was rated a 5 on the temperature scale. They were very interested in the business. I have all of the referrals information, their address, their phone number, their email, and comments that Keith put in about this referral. I also have all of Keith's contact information if I need to follow up with Keith before I give that person a call. Now the best thing is that I received this on my cell phone. I get email on my phone, and just by clicking the phone number, my phone was able to dial this number right away. And if I would have clicked the email address, it would have just started an email to this person right away. This is a huge benefit. It shortens the time of the referral process. Rather than having to make a lot of phone calls and follow-ups and passing information, you can do it all in one shot. And of course, I can always go back. So again, Robin calls me a couple of months from now and says, hey, did you ever pass me that referral? I can go back and say, oh yeah, I did pass that referral to Acme Company. Oh, by the way, you lost the phone number. Here it is. It's 444-7877, and the email address was john@Acme Company. So very easy to follow up and, again, speed up that referral process. The next type of slip is a one-to-one slip. Again, this is just like the slips we pass in the meeting. Select somebody from your chapter. So I met with Mary Crooker this week. She does insurance in my chapter. And the location we met was at Dunkin' Donuts We talked about new insurance programs, and the date of that meeting was on Monday. And again, I can choose Save and New, or I can choose Submit to bring me back to the home screen. And just like with the other ones, we can do cross-chapter one-to-ones as well with any other member of your particular region. Now, as with the other types of forms, there is a corresponding My One-to-One report. Now, the power of this report to me is that I'm sure this has never happened to you in your chapter, but you're sitting across the room from somebody as people are going through their 60 seconds, and you hear a great 60-second, you look across the room and you say, you know, Frank and I used to pass a lot of business back and forth, but you know, it seems to have tapered off lately. I wonder why that is. Great thing to do is go back to your one-to-one report. The driving force behind passing referrals is one-to-ones. I can very quickly go back and say, oh, you know what? I haven't done a one-to-one with Frank since the 26th of November. No wonder why we're not passing that many referrals back and forth. Our relationship has diverged a little bit. Schedule another one-to-one, follow up with it, and you can track that progress by entering the one-to-one slips online. Now, one thing to note about the one-to-ones is that only one person of the pair needs to enter the slip online. So I entered this form. It will appear on Frank's report as well as my report. We'll both get credit for it in the Palms. If Frank goes to try to enter a one-to-one on the same day, he will get a notification saying Jeremy has already entered this. Are you sure you want to enter a duplicate? At which point he would know not to enter that slip a second time. Finally, we have the CEUs. Now, the CEU form is just like the CEU form that we have, the gold form that's in most of the chapters out there. Now, keep in mind that this does the math for you. So you only need to put the quantity of each type in, and it will calculate out the total number of credits. So if I read 2 books, for example, I would just put 2 in here, and it would automatically calculate out the 10 credits. You know, I went to 1 leadership team training, and I actually listened to 2 sets of podcasts, and it does the math for me. I click Submit, and again, this will go into the My CEU report, and we can see the CEUs that have been passed. We have a couple of questions from Tim and N.E. Tucker. They both asked the same question. Does today's webinar count for CEU credit? And if it does, how do you submit that? One thing to keep in mind is that the CEU slip, and I'll bring this up one more time, this is based on the official slips program that is done by BNI, and webinar is not specifically listed on this. First thing I'll tell you is please check with your region first. Different regions have different ways of tracking activities that are not necessarily specifically listed on this form. I can tell you that what a lot of regions do, but again, please check with your director consultant or your executive director first. You'll notice that each of these activities roughly corresponds to the amount of time that was invested learning more about networking. So, for example, 5 podcasts. Each podcast is about 10 to 12 minutes. 5 podcasts is about an hour. That's why 5 podcasts is 1 credit. Same thing for listening to a BNI CD. A BNI CD is approximately 1 hour to listen to. That's why it's 1 credit. What a lot of regions will do is just pick one of these 2, put in a quantity of 1 for a 1-hour webinar, and click Submit. And that's how a lot of chapters would do things for things like webinars or other networking style events that aren't necessarily listed on the slip. So hopefully that helps. Now, the other benefit to using the online slips program is tracking the referrals that you receive online in BNI Connect. So when people pass you referrals, you get the email notification about them, which is awesome, and I save all my referral notifications so I can go back and refer to them. But they will also go into this next option here, which is the referral tracking sheet. Now, if I go into my referral tracking sheet, and I'm actually going to switch back over to the regular BNI Connect, because not a lot of people pass me referrals in the test system. But if I go into my referral tracking sheet, and I can choose any 6-month period that I'd like to, so I can go back to, let's say, November or December of last year, and click Go. And this will show me all of the electronic referrals that I've received in BNI Connect. So the great thing about this is I can also track the status of them. So, for example, here's a referral that I received recently, and here's that statewide title and closing that you saw the email for. It also went into this referral tracking sheet, and I can click on this, and I can now follow up with this actual referral that was passed to me. I can change the status to pending because I've now made contact. I made contact with that person right away on the 2nd, right after I received that referral. We actually made an appointment and met with them a few days later, so I can track that. And after we've closed the business, I can do a follow-up, and if I'd like to, track a number in here. Now, note that this does not submit a thank you for closed business. You do have to do that separately. And I can also rate whether this turned into a Tier 3 or a Tier 4 referral, some spin-off business. And I can re-rate this referral if I'd like to as well. Now, the great thing about this is that this status will also update the status in his My Referrals report, so he can track the status of how I'm doing with this referral. So I can click Submit. I'll now see that the status has changed on this to pending. And Keith, who passed me the referral, will also see that the status has changed in his My Referrals report. There is a corresponding regular report that goes along with that, and that is the referral tracking report. So I can go in there if I would just like a spreadsheet view of these referrals and where they stand. Now, there were a couple of questions here that said, how do you print out the forms to take to the meetings? Or what do we do at the chapter meetings now if we're doing all this online? Well, please keep in mind that we are not looking to change the chapter meeting in any way. That is an extremely important part of the meeting. When we get to the referrals and the testimonials portion of the meeting, we absolutely 100% want to report on this activity that happened during the week. We want to still tell about our referrals. We want to still talk about the one-to-ones and the CEUs and the thank you for closed business. That's what this personal meeting activity sheet is for. The personal meeting activity sheet is what you can print out and bring to your chapter meeting. So by default, it's going to choose the last week's worth of activity, and we click Go. And what we can see here is I passed 2 referrals, and here's the 2 referral slips. And note that it's printing them in a nice big size so that if I want to, I can take a pair of scissors, I can cut these out, and drop them into the basket so I can be included for the referral reality check, as well as for the door prize at the end of the meeting. We can also see the things that I don't need to necessarily fill out a piece of paper for, but I do want to announce at the meeting. So when we get to this part of the meeting, I'd cut out these with a pair of scissors. I drop those in the bowl and say, hey, I had a referral for Keith Traversy. I had a referral for Dave Cordero. I drop those in the bowl. And I say, and I had a thank you for Helen Andromelos for $250 and Bruce Tricomi for $150. I had a one-to-one with Mary Crooker, and I had 16 CEUs for this week. And I would also announce any visitors that I brought with me to the meeting. Now, if you don't have a printer at home, or you forget to print it out, or you just flat out don't want to print it out, don't panic. When you get to the meeting, just grab one of the regular referral slips that are there and fill that out so that you can be included for the door prize. However, Please make sure that your vice president knows not to count it, otherwise you'll get double credit in the POMS report. My recommendation, you take a big black marker and put an X right through the middle of it. Make sure you write in the comments, entered online. Anything you can do to help the vice president know, do not count this one a second time. I just wanted to be included for the door prize. Now we're just about at the bottom of the hour. Very quickly, for any vice presidents that are on the line, one thing that you'll notice is also that the slips will have been entered into the POMS report already for you. So if I go into the operations chapter and I'm going to go to enter a POMS report for this particular chapter, let me switch over to my own chapter here. I go to enter POMS for this week. What the vice president, what you will see now is that there's already stuff entered into the POMS. So there's that $250 thank you for Helen. There's also the one-to-one with Mary Crooker. And then the referral given to Keith Traversy. So all of this information has been pre-filled out in the POMS report, saving the vice president work of having to count slips. And vice presidents, just click on the slips audit report, and you will see a listing of all of the electronic slips that were entered for that week. And that's your balance sheet. It will also show, because when you enter visitors into BNI Connect, that will also populate the POMS. It would also show the visitors here in the slips audit report as well. So you can verify that entry also. So we are at the bottom of the hour. For those that do need to leave right away, I would like to thank you all for being here. We do still have a couple of questions that I do want to answer at this time. But again, for those that do need to leave right now at the bottom of the hour, thank you for being here. This will be recorded in its entirety and uploaded to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. All right, so let's get back to these questions for those of you that can stick around for a few more minutes. From Chuck, he says, is there any printable version in case I want to give a hard copy to the recipient so they get a direct confirmation from me? And Chuck, did I cover that with the referral tracking report or with the personal meeting activity sheet, or were you looking for additional information on that? All right. In the meantime, we have another question from Mike Rivali, or Rival. Says, does the cross-chapter activity impact our chapter traffic lights? Yes, traffic lights are impacted, of course, with anything to do with the POMS. So as you give credit to other people, and as the POMS are updated with this information, it should positively impact your traffic lights. Now, just to be certain, we're talking apples and apples. Are you referring to the member traffic lights or to the chapter traffic lights? But either way, yes, they will be affected because this is POMS activity. So Mike says both. And yes, it will more so impact member traffic lights because, again, that's the member traffic lights, which is measuring your activity, so referrals given, one-to-ones, things like that. Those will, it should actually make it easier for you to move up in member traffic lights because, again, this activity that's cross-chapter will be credited to you. So that's stuff that we never got credit before for. And it's stuff that we are getting credit for now. So hopefully that makes sense, Mike. Jim Green asks, can we do cross regions with referrals? And again, right now, cross region is not available. And the reason for that is actually, if you remember from the beginning of the call, we do have somebody on the call here from Belgium today. His or her name is Steph. There are some countries right now that have not yet turned on the online slips. Again, that's coming. We're hoping by October that everybody worldwide will have the online slips. The other thing to keep in mind, right now, this cross-chapter, again, because it's kind of a newer concept in BNI, this is turned on for some regions, but not yet turned on for others. So at the time when the online slips is available worldwide and the search cross-chapter is available worldwide, we will be able to open it up so that you'll be able to, hopefully, the dream of this is to be able to pass a referral or do a one-to-one with anybody in BNI worldwide and be able to track that activity the same way we track the activity within our chapter and now within our region. So hopefully that answers your question, Jim. David says, please explain the sets of podcast comment. Do we have to listen to 5 podcasts to get 1 credit? And with the CEUs are set up so that 5 podcasts do equal 1 credit, at least according to the official BNI SLIPS program. So if, again, some regions do things slightly differently, I urge you to talk to your executive director or your director consultant for more specific information about how it's being tracked in your region. So hopefully that helps, David. Chuck says, is there a thank you for closed business printable slip similar to the referral printable slip? I see the report, but wondering about an equivalent to the thank you for closed business slip at the meeting. Again, with these slips that you're printing out for the personal meeting activity, the only ones that really need to be turned in at this point are the referral slips, because all of the other slips were handed in already electronically to the POMS report. So there's no need to hand in another slip. And the only reason to print it out is if you want to be included for the door prize. As far as the thank you for closed business slip, that was always done, and it was always passed into the bowl. And the person that was receiving the thank you for closed business, they got the recognition during the meeting, but they didn't necessarily get another or duplicate copy of the slip for that. So to answer your question, based on how we do that process now with paper, no, there isn't another slip, printable slip for thank you for closed business. So I hope that makes sense, Chuck. Annie Tucker says, if I initiate the one-to-one and go to their location, tour their office, and spend the hour interviewing them, why do they also get credit for the one-to-one? Again, this is based on current BNI policy. The way that it has been done is that when you both the benefit of that one-to-one meeting, and you both get the credit for that one-to-one in the POMS report. So you both invested the hour in the mutual relationship, and you both get the credit for it in the one-to-one. So again, this is just in alignment with how it's currently done in the BNI process right now. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, that was the last question I have on my board. Do we have any additional questions at all? Any additional questions whatsoever? I'd be happy to answer those questions now. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for being on the call. If you have a minute, remember, this is recorded. It will be uploaded to youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. This is where all the videos are stored, or on our support site. Please also, if you have a chance, go to facebook.com/BNI Connect Global and give us a like. This is where we do all of our webinar reminders and announcement. Here's the reminder for today's webinar. We do tips and tricks and upgrade announcements, all sorts of things. Please do go up there and give us a like. We're 15 people away from 2,000. I'd love to see us have 2,000 likes in the near future. Please join us there as well. Our very next webinar, which you can find on your regional calendar or on the support site, is tomorrow at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and that's Building VCP with BNI Connect, or we're going to be going through all the details and some best practices for filling out your member profile. So please let your chapters know about these. A good referral for me is, if you found some benefit today, is to, again, tell your fellow members about it. If you're an executive director or director consultant, please let your membership know about these webinars. Thanks again for being here. Have a great day, everyone, and happy connecting.